Hi everyone and welcome to Behind Dark Minds. Here we explore the stories behind the perpetrators' minds and seek understanding beyond the headlines. I'm Nina Clark and in today's episode we are going to analyze the case against Bryan Kohberger, accused of being the perpetrator of the Idaho 4 murders. So let's begin. On the night of November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were found dead in the off-campus home where 3 of them lived in Moscow, Idaho. They had been stabbed to death. The victims were identified as Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chaplin, and Zena Carnodo. Now let's go through the victims' footsteps leading up to the attack. The victims' movements were largely reconstructed through phone records, surveillance footage, and witness statements. Here's what is known about their final hours. Madison and Kaylee were at the Corner Club, a popular bar in downtown Moscow, between 10:15 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. At 1:30 a.m., they stopped by the Grub Truck, a local food truck where they were seen on a Twitch livestream ordering food. At 1:45 a.m., they got a ride home from a private potty driver. The driver was someone trusted within the community that provided safe rides to students in Moscow, Idaho. Security footage confirmed the driver's movements and showed that he left immediately after dropping Kaylee and Madison off at 1:56 a.m. Also, the driver's phone records and vehicle GPS were analyzed, confirming that he was not near the home at the time of the murders, so police cleared him early in the investigation. Upon arriving at the house, both Madison and Kaylee went to Kaylee's bedroom. Between 2:26 a.m. and 2:52 a.m., Kaylee called her ex-boyfriend multiple times, but he didn't answer. Madison also tried calling him. After that, it is believed that both girls fell asleep in Kaylee's bed, where they were found together. Ethan and Zena were at a Sigma Chi fraternity party, which was just a short walk from the house, between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. At 1:45 a.m., they returned home to Zena's bedroom on the second floor. Around 4 a.m., Zena received a DoorDash delivery. There is no public records to suggest that the DoorDash driver was even considered as a suspect. And at 4:12 a.m., Zena was using TikTok, indicating she was still awake and alive. The 2 surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, were home by 1 a.m. and were asleep at the time of the murders. The house at 1122 King Road was well known as a party house, frequently hosting gatherings attended by University of Idaho students. This reputation is significant because it meant that many people, including potential strangers, had easy access to the home or had been inside before the crime. The house was rented by multiple students over the years, and it became a social hub. It was not uncommon for dozens of people to be there at any given time, including those who didn't personally know the residents to visit.
That lives here and they're not here right now.
No one's here that lives here at all.
No one's here that lives
So
here.
everyone here is trespassing?
Well, no one's here that's trespassing, but no one that lives here is here right now.
So where'd they go?
They're just not here. I have no clue where they went. No clue.
So you guys just throwing a party in their house at this
They were
time?
here at one point. They're not here right now. I just searched all the rooms.
They left and went over to some other party, and everyone is about to leave and go over to another party.
Okay. Who does live here? What are their names?
I am actually not sure. I live across the street. I just came over. I haven't drank a drop.
Male, female?
I think it's mainly females. I think it's like 4 females.
What sorority are they affiliated with?
I don't know.
I don't know if they're associated with it.
The residents were reportedly casual about security, often leaving doors unlocked, especially the sliding glass door on the second floor, which many used as the main entrance. There were multiple noise complaints reported at the King Road house before the murders, reinforcing its reputation as a party house. These incidents give insight into how frequently people came and went, possibly making it easier for a stranger to blend in unnoticed. The house was a 3-story structure with multiple entry points and had a somewhat confusing layout, which could have made it easier for an intruder to move unnoticed. Based on the evidence from the crime scene and law enforcement theories, the perpetrator's movements were likely as follows. Investigators believe the killer entered through the second-floor sliding glass door, a door that was often left unlocked. This entrance leads directly into the main living area, giving them immediate access to the bedrooms on that floor, above, and below. From there, the intruder moves up the stairs to the 3rd floor. Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogum were asleep in the same bed inside Kaylee's room. Both victims suffer multiple stab wounds with no signs of struggle or defensive wounds, which suggests they were both asleep through the attack. Then the intruder leaves Kaylee's room and descends the stairs to the 2nd floor, possibly intending to exit the house. However, Zena Carnodo was still awake, having received a food delivery shortly before the attack. As he moves downstairs, Zena may have stepped out of her room, unknowingly crossing paths with the intruder. At this moment, Dylan, a surviving roommate, hears a voice, a quiet, uneasy statement. "There's someone here." Ethan Chaplin is inside Zena's room, but before he can react, the intruder attacks and kills him first. Moments later, Dylan hears a soft cry followed by a chilling reassurance from a male voice. "It's okay, I'm going to help you." The perpetrator then turns on Zena, who fights back, but ultimately she too is killed. He then leaves Zena's room, having just carried out the final attack. As he moves through the 2nd floor, heading towards the sliding glass door, Dylan opens her door and sees him walking toward her. Then he simply walks past her and exits at around 4:20 a.m. From 4:19 a.m. to 4:21 a.m., Dylan attempts to call Bethany, Zena, Kaylee, and Madison. All calls unanswered. From 4:22 a.m. to 4:24 a.m., Dylan and Bethany send the following text messages. Dylan to Bethany, "No one is answering. I'm really confused right now." Dylan to Kaylee, "Kaylee, what's going on?" Bethany to Dylan, "Yeah, dude, what the fuck?" Zena was wearing all black. Dylan to Bethany, "I'm freaking out right now." "No, it's like ski mask almost." Bethany to Dylan, "Shut the fuck up." Actually, Dylan to Bethany, like he had something over his forehead and mouth. Bethany, "I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out." Bethany to Dylan, "So am I." Dylan to Bethany, "My phone is going to die. Fuck." Bethany to Dylan, "Come to my room. Run. Down here." At 4:24 a.m., Dylan tries to call Ethan. Then Dylan to Bethany, "I'm scared though." Bethany to Dylan, "Yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone." At 4:27 a.m., Dylan tries to call Kaylee. At 4:28 a.m., Dylan tries to call Zena. At 4:32 a.m., Dylan texts Kaylee, "Please answer." The next morning, Dylan sent the following text messages starting at 10:23 a.m. To Kaylee, "Please answer." To Maddie, "Are you up?" And to Kaylee, "Are you up?" At 11:39 a.m., Dylan has a text exchange with her father. At 11:50 a.m., Dylan calls her friend Evan. Soon after, two friends of theirs, Evan and Hunter, arrived at the house. Hunter located the unresponsive body of Zena Carnodo and informed Bethany and Dylan to call 911. They perceived the event as Zena being passed out and not waking up. Around 11:58 a.m., nearly 8 hours after the alleged intruder left the house, the 911 call was placed, and several people talked to the 911 dispatcher. Let's hear the call.
11:55 a.m. 42 seconds, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. But we have to. Is he passed out? What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. What's wrong?
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here to
Okay.
them.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
You need to talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Okay. Hello.
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again. There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. I think yes. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, you have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m. 49 seconds, November 13, 2022.
Dylan described the suspect as a male figure dressed in black, approximately 5'10" or taller, athletic, but not muscular. He was wearing a mask that covered his mouth and nose and had bushy eyebrows. Dylan's actions were not considered suspicious by police, as trauma experts suggest shock can delay reactions. The masked man with bushy eyebrows was later identified as Bryan Kohberger. We're going to talk more about Bryan and how the police got to him later. The autopsies revealed that the victim suffered deep stab wounds consistent with a fixed blade knife. The size, depth, and shape of the wounds helped forensic experts narrow down the type of weapon. Although the murder weapon was not found, a brown leather knife sheath marked with USMC and the K-Bar brand logo was found near Madison Mogan's body on the 3rd floor. This specific type of knife is a military-style combat knife with a single-edged 7-inch blade, consistent with the wounds revealed in the autopsies. A single source DNA was found on the snap button of the knife sheath, what helped investigators identify the suspect. We're going to get to that later. After the murders, investigators scoured the area for any potential surveillance footage or evidence that could help identify the suspect. A white sedan was seen near the King Road house multiple times between 3:29 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. on the night of the murders, behaving suspiciously by circling the area multiple times before leaving at a high speed. Law enforcement sent the footage to FBI analysts who specialize in vehicle identification. These experts determined that the make and model of the vehicle was a Hyundai Elantra based on shape, headlights, and taillights visible in the footage. On December 7, 2022, police asked the community's help in locating a white Hyundai Elantra with an unknown license plate. According to the affidavit, there was no frontal plate, which is required in Idaho and Washington states. Kohberger's Elantra license plate was from Pennsylvania, and the state doesn't require frontal plates. But his license was set to expire on November 30, 2022, and on November 18, 2022, about 12 days before his Pennsylvania plates would have expired, and just 5 days after the murders, he changed his license plates to Washington plates. While this could have been a routine registration update after moving states, and the public was not yet aware about the search for a white Elantra, investigators found the timing suspicious, as it happened just 5 days after the murders. On December 19, 2022, Kohberger's name was first known to investigators as a result of an investigative genetic genealogy that was being undertaken by the FBI. We're going to talk about the DNA evidence and how they analyzed it in a bit. After identifying Kohberger through genetic genealogy DNA, investigators analyzed Bryan's cell phone records to track his movements before, during, and after the murders. This data was crucial in building the case against him. Kohberger's phone cell tower data placed him within 1 and 2 miles of the victim's house, at least 12 times before the murders. Most of these visits happened late at night or early morning, dating as far back as August 21, 2022, several months before the murders. His phone also pinged near the Mad Greek restaurant, where 2 of the victims, Madison and Kaylee, worked. Kohberger is known to be a strict vegan, and Mad Greek was one of the best and most well-known spots that offer vegan choices in the area. Now let's go through Kohberger's alleged footsteps that morning. According to the affidavit, they used phone records and surveillance footage to track the Elantra and Kohberger that morning. It's believed Kohberger left his apartment a short time before 2:45 a.m. on November 13, 2022. Kohberger's phone was turned off between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m., which coincided with the time of the murders, indicating to investigators that he likely turned off his phone to commit the murders. But that can also mean that he was in a place where there was no cell phone signal or that his battery died. Surveillance video on Washington State University campus has a suspect vehicle traveling toward Highway 270, which connects Pullman to Moscow around 2:50 a.m. The vehicle is next tracked going westbound on Indian Hills Drive, just east of Main Street in Moscow, around 3:26 a.m. 2 minutes later, the car is seen in surveillance video traveling westbound on Steiner Avenue at Main Street. Court documents say multiple surveillance videos caught the same Elantra in the King Road neighborhood at 3:29 a.m. Surveillance videos show the vehicle making 3 passes in the area before leaving by Valenta Drive. Then, around 4:04 a.m., the suspect returns a fourth time, driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When the vehicle is in front of the King Road residence, he appears to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a three-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Next, the vehicle is captured at 4:20 a.m., leaving the area of the King Road house at a high speed. Another surveillance video catches the Elantra driving south on Valenta Drive again. Around 4:50 a.m., after his phone was turned back on, the phone was tracked near Bryan, Idaho. Further tracking was consistent with Kohberger traveling south of Genesee, west to Uniontown, and north back into Pullman. At 5:25 a.m., the suspect vehicle is picked up on 5 cameras on WSU's campus, traveling northbound on Johnston Road, turning north on Bishop Boulevard, and northwest on State Road 270. And at 5:27 a.m., is seen on Stadium Way from Nevada Street to Cougar Way. At 5:30 a.m., his phone was picked up at Pullman, Washington, consistent with traveling back to the Kohberger residence and matching surveillance footage of his car returning. Around 9 a.m., he was seen leaving the area of his residence and traveling to Moscow, Idaho. Between 9:12 a.m. and 9:21 a.m., Kohberger's phone pinned in a cell tower near the victim's house again. This suggests he may have returned to see the aftermath or recover the knife sheath. Next, traveling back to the area of the Kohberger residence and arriving at 9:32 a.m. Around noon, the phone was picked up traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho via U.S. Highway 195. At 12:36 p.m., his phone was picked up near Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand, and a surveillance camera nearby showed a white Elantra driving past the area. Around 12:45 p.m., the phone was by Albertsons grocery store at 400 Bridge Street in Clarkson, Washington, and surveillance footage from the Albertsons showed Kohberger exit the white Elantra. At 12:49 p.m., interior surveillance cameras showed Kohberger walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at approximately 1:04 p.m. Between 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the phone was picked up around Johnson, Idaho. Then from 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., the phone stops reporting to the network. And that's all the information we have regarding Kohberger's whereabouts. Now let's talk about the knife sheath and the DNA evidence. As I said before, a single-source male DNA was found on the snap button of the knife sheath recovered from the scene near Madison's body. Single-source DNA means that the DNA found on the sheath comes from only one individual, and since the DNA comes from one person, forensic analysts can generate a clear profile without needing to separate multiple contributors. They ran the DNA through CODIS, the National DNA Database, and it did not match anyone in the system. So the FBI used genetic genealogy to track it. Now let me explain how that works. Law enforcement uploads the sample to genealogy databases. These databases contain millions of DNA profiles voluntarily submitted by people researching their ancestry. By uploading the DNA from the knife sheath to these databases, they found relatives linked to Kohberger's family, and that can be distant relatives like third cousins, great-grandparents, etc. Once police have a few partial family matches, they use traditional genealogy research to build a family tree. This process narrows down the family line to find someone who fits the suspect's profile. In Kohberger's case, they likely traced the family tree back to his parents. Once they identified the Kohberger family, investigators checked who in the family was a male, lived near the crime scene, and drove a white Hyundai Elantra. Bryan Kohberger became the prime suspect, with police putting him under 24/7 surveillance. A family match from a distant relative is not enough proof to arrest someone, and since they couldn't legally take his DNA without a warrant, they collected trash from his parents' home in Pennsylvania. Inside the trash, they found his father's DNA on discarded items, and the results showed a near 100% match to a biological child of Kohberger's father, confirming that the DNA from the crime scene belonged to Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger's defense team argued in court that FBI agents who used the DNA databases did so in violation of the company's terms of service and internal policies. Only 2 databases allow law enforcement to use their information: GED Match Pro and Family Tree DNA. They access GED Match and MyHeritage, which disallow such use. The judge denied the defense's request to exclude the DNA evidence, saying Kohberger didn't prove he had a reasonable expectation of the privacy of his relatives' DNA after they willingly uploaded to public databases, nor does the way authorities access that DNA impact his rights in the ruling. He said that any violation of the terms of service of the genetic databases or internal FBI policy may give rise to a civil action between the FBI and the particular database, or perhaps the individuals whose DNA profiles were used, but do not have a bearing on Kohberger's constitutional rights. Kohberger's background, particularly in criminology, has drawn significant attention as he offers some insight into the possible motivations and behaviors leading up to the crimes. Kohberger was pursuing a PhD in criminology at Washington State University, which is located just across the state border from Idaho. His academic interests included studying criminal behavior, particularly the psychology behind why people commit violent crimes. He was reportedly involved in research that focused on understanding how offenders view crime, specifically how they may rationalize or justify their actions. Before his doctorate studies, Kohberger earned a master's degree in criminal justice from the Sales University in Pennsylvania, where he also completed his undergraduate degree. His educational background in criminology could suggest that he had a deep interest in understanding criminal minds, which in turn raises questions about how that knowledge might have influenced his behavior. Kohberger also came under scrutiny for a Reddit survey he had posted in the past. He reportedly conducted a survey asking people to describe their thoughts and feelings about crimes they had committed. Kohberger reached out to participants through Reddit, seeking responses about the motivations behind criminal behavior, as well as the decision-making process in committing a crime. But to be fair, he's a criminology student, so I would think that conducting a survey like this would be normal. Some have speculated that Kohberger may have been an incel, particularly given his reported lack of meaningful relationships or romantic history. However, there is no concrete evidence linking Kohberger to incel communities, nor has he publicly expressed incel-related views. Additionally, Kohberger's academic background in criminology and his behavior leading up to the murders don't directly suggest a typical incel mindset. He seemed to be more focused on his studies and research rather than expressing frustration over romantic rejection. About a month after the murders, Bryan and his dad drove the Elantra on a 3-day trip from Pullman, Washington to their family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania for the holidays. FBI agents followed as Kohberger chose to take an indirect route home, one that his dad, Michael, would tell a friend seemed to make little sense. He was stopped twice in Indiana by state troopers, Previous reports suggest that the stops could have been at the request of the federal agents, but they say it was unconnected and left agents frustrated and angry of fears that the local cops would recognize the car from appeals and arrest the suspect too soon. Instead, the officers did not catch on and let the Kohbergers go, allowing the agents to finally follow them home undeterred. After arriving at his parents' home, a combination of surveillance, neighbor observations, and investigative findings made investigators believe that Kohberger had been acting strangely while at home. He was noticed to be wearing gloves indoors, taking out trash in plastic bags, cleaning his car aggressively at odd hours, and disposing of trash in his neighbor's bins. After weeks of surveillance, a SWAT team arrested Kohberger on December 30, 2022, around 1:30 a.m. at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The SWAT team entered the house forcefully, breaking through windows and doors. Kohberger was found in bed on the second floor and was arrested without resistance. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and felony burglary. He waived extradition and was flown back to Idaho on January 4, 2023. The defense presented an alibi claiming that Kohberger was driving during the time of the murders, supported by cell phone tracking data. However, prosecutors argue that the defense has not provided sufficient details or met disclosure deadlines for this alibi and filed a motion seeking to limit Kohberger's ability to present an alibi defense unless he testifies himself.
4-page court filing, the defense says Mr. Kohberger has long had a habit of going for drives alone. Often he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022, but beyond that, the defense didn't reveal much more in the alibi.
His defense team argued for a change of venue, citing concerns over potential jury bias in Leda County. Central to their argument was a survey conducted to assess local sentiments regarding Kohberger's guilt and the possibility of a fair trial in the original location. The survey revealed that a significant portion of Leda County residents had already formed strong opinions about the case. Notably, approximately 60% of respondents believed Kohberger was guilty. Around 52% supported the imposition of the death penalty if he were convicted. Some respondents expressed extreme views, with one stating they would burn the courthouse down if Kohberger was not convicted. Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? A change of venue was granted, moving the trial from Leda County to Boise in Ada County. On February 24, 2025, Kohberger's defense team filed a motion titled Strike Death Penalty regarding autism spectrum disorder. The defense argued that Kohberger is on the autism spectrum to avoid the death penalty. If Bryan Kohberger receives the death penalty, it could be carried out by firing squad, but only under specific circumstances. Idaho, where Kohberger is being prosecuted, reinstated the firing squad as an execution method in 2023 due to ongoing difficulties in obtaining lethal injection drugs. On March 12, 2025, Idaho Governor Brad Little signed House Bill 37 into law, making the firing squad the state's primary method of execution. In a statement to Catholic news agency, Governor Little said, "I have long made clear my support of capital punishment. My signing of this bill is consistent with my support of the Idaho legislature's actions in setting the policies around methods of execution in the state of Idaho." The bill, which takes effect on July 1, 2026, passed both chambers of the Idaho legislature by wide margins, with a vote 28-7 in the Senate and 58-11 in the House. Just 3 Republican lawmakers joined all 15 of their Democratic colleagues in voting against the bill. The legal proceedings against Bryan Kohberger are advancing with several notable developments.
Kohberger's lawyers are accusing prosecutors of holding back evidence about his cell phone location records. Kohberger had an AT&T phone, and his lawyers say those records will accurately pinpoint where his phone was and the direction that he was driving on the night of the murders.
Don't get caught up in thinking 7 minutes don't matter here. We're talking about ground that can be covered in a vehicle in a short time.
Prosecutors say Bryan Kohberger's Amazon click history proves he purchased a knife like the one used in the crime.
Among the revelations is evidence tying the defendant, Bryan Kohberger, to the black balaclava mask that was spotted by a surviving housemate. The prosecutors say they have proof that Bryan Kohberger bought a black balaclava mask, quote, the same type of mask described by Dylan Mortensen, from a Dick's Sporting Goods store in January of 2022.
The filings show Kohberger's attorneys are prepared to point to other possible suspects, writing, "This case is full of alternative perpetrators. The state has chosen to focus on Mr. Kohberger at its own peril." After the murders, police say one of the surviving roommates told them she saw a masked man with bushy eyebrows in the home. Prosecutors now revealing that after Kohberger's arrest, she told police, "I have no clue whether Kohberger was the same man she had seen." The defense has said Mr. Kohberger does not have bushy eyebrows, but prosecutors now including this new photograph in their latest filings, writing, "Whether or not Bryan Kohberger can be described as having bushy eyebrows is a factual determination to be decided by the jury."
The trial is scheduled to commence on August 11, 2025, and is expected to continue through November 2025. Although it sounds like he's guilty considering the information we have as of right now, he should be considered innocent until a jury convicts. And I honestly can't wait for the trial to see what the defense will present. I'll definitely cover the trial here, and I'll watch open-minded because he might be innocent. We don't know all the facts yet. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next episode of Behind Dark Minds. Bye.